Good evening, Tracy, and my neighboring cities of San Joaquin County and Stanislaus County's residents. I'm your host, Rod Singh, and I have a co-host, Gurtej Atwal, along with me today. And we have a candidate running for State Senate for District 5, Jim Ridenour. So Gurtej, please introduce our candidate, and let's hear from Jim about his candidacy for State Senate.
Thank you very much, Raj. So Jim don't need an introduction, but I'll, with respect, introduce him. So he served as the mayor of city of Modesto from 2003 to 2012. So he was served as president of League of California Cities. So he is a known figure in our community, does lots of voluntary works. So I will request now Jim to please share some more about him.
About me. Well, I've lived here all my life in California. I've lived in the Valley all but 14 years. I was down in Santa Barbara starting a new business. And other than that, I have constantly lived in this valley. I was mayor for Modesto for 8 years, 2 terms. And they have you can only serve 2 terms in Modesto. So after that, I went back to doing my thing. I worked at the sheriff's department up until just recently. I was sworn for years. The last 10 years, I worked in property and evidence, working with everything that was checked in. But pretty much that's it. That's where I'm at right now. I'm very happy to be running, and I do want to win, and I'm going to do everything I can to be able to win. That's lawful.
Thank you, Jim, for highlighting that part. So that brings us to our first topic of our show today to go over, and that would start with the everybody knows about a global pandemic, COVID-19. So as a candidate, if you get elected, first of all, what kind of issues or challenges that you're hearing from the residents in your county and San Joaquin, in your District 5 overall, and how are you proposing to propose some solutions around that? So can you give us some information, your thoughts on COVID-19?
Okay, on COVID-19, I'm going to work very closely with the science, everything that we can find out. Of course, they're the ones that should know and what we should do. I believe deep down inside, they should just open up and everybody should wear masks. I think if the restaurants or the grocery stores require a mask, you either wear it or you don't go in. But I think the economy, we really need to open things up again.
Okay. So a lot of time what we hear from our small businesses, they are getting a big impact because of this COVID. They're not opening up, and so right now, recently we're opening up with the conditions, the restaurants and some other hair salons and all that, all the small businesses. As a recovery plan, anything that you would like to share around that? What can be done better, or in your vision, what's working and what's not working?
Well, I believe, as I said earlier, they should open it up. I think that the restaurants, the grocery stores, all should require masks. I think until we get over this, and we've already proven wearing masks, we're reducing our hospitalizations and everything in Stanislaus County, I know. And I just believe you open it up and you let the owners decide about masks. I travel around here in Modesto and Stockton, and there's a lot of places require them. I wear a mask. But I think other than that, if we don't start opening up, I think there's going to be a lot of businesses that can't make it through this. And with everything, I think when they don't agree, don't use what they've told us to do, and wear a mask, stay apart. That's the other thing. You have these big parties going on. And I'm surprised that out of a few of those beach parties, we didn't have a lot more COVID. But I think we have to listen to the people who knows. One of the things is we really need to focus on bringing business back, because the small business owners, even some of the larger business owners that ain't open, we're hearing daily where they're not going to come back. The other thing we need to do is lower the tax and regulations on business. I mean, to a point right now, who would really want to start a business in California or in our counties? We tax them. When I was mayor, I thought it was ridiculous what we charged. So many people there didn't even come into Modesto. but you have to work with businesses. We need the businesses here, especially in our county and San Joaquin County.
Thank you, Jim, for highlighting on that topic. And I would ask Ritesh to keep us moving to the next topic. Ritesh, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jim. As you mentioned about the businesses, so one of the biggest agriculture business or the job producer in our Central Valley, so which faces the issues of water. So water issue comes here and there. So last year there were tunnel issues, then it got scratched. But those kinds of scenarios comes hinders our agriculture. So what do you think about where we are with respect to water, and how do you see the future for water with agriculture?
For water, I see the future. We got to keep our water in our areas. I mean, we have agriculture that we're serving so much of the country. And I just believe the water needs to stay right here in our county. We don't need to be shipping it down south or anywhere else. That water should stay right here. The same way about the tunnels. I don't agree with the tunnels. Uh, Anything that takes water out of our area, out of our counties, out of our, Northern California, where most of the agriculture is, I'm against it totally.
So, Jim, just following up on that, so what solutions in that direction do you think? Like, there were talks, in future there will be talks, because Southern California, that population is increasing, and in 20th century we had the delta, the levees to channelize the water to Southern California. So the water resources, California's resource, but how do you think those discussions, so in future, how can we keep the water in Central Valley?
Well, I just think we have to work hard to keep it in the valley. I mean, some of the things that could happen, I think tunnels for sure, they should not be even part of our water. We have to some way solve the problems either by locally, and I think the state of California needs to be there too. I think we need to go up to Sacramento and we need to speak for the valley. We need to make sure that we're not going to lose anything. In the Delta tunnels, as I told you earlier, I'm completely no against the tunnels. I don't think there's anything good come out of it.
No, thank you very much, Jim. So I'll now take it back to Raj. So please.
All right. So now moving into, if we talk about the public safety and law enforcement, those two things goes hand parallelly together. So what's your stand? What's your viewpoint about public safety and law enforcement?
Well, public safety, I think, is one of the biggest things that we have to have in our areas. This whole thing about defunding police is crazy. Without the law enforcement, you got to live by laws. And without them, we're going to be all sitting out here wondering what's going to happen next. I mean, we watch TV, we see what happened in Seattle and all these different areas. We just don't need that. We need to back our police, back our law enforcement, and our whole first responders. I mean, fire, police, and the emergency ambulances. They need to be here. I used to work there for a lot of years in the medical field. I was 50 years in the paramedics. From 1955, I saw how that grew. And we're saving lives out there. But we need them, and we got to keep them. We can't shut them down. If we shut them down, there's going to be a lot more people injured because, there's so many people out there that don't follow the law. They don't want to follow the law. They want to agitate. They want to cause problems in these peaceful protests that's going on. As long as they continue to fight it all the time, we're not going to win anything. We have to shut down this violence that's going on. And we have to shut down the idea that if we got one bad cop does something wrong, well, that doesn't paint it all over. And I think just like business, I run that business like for 50 years, and I had bad employees. We had to get rid of them. You just do what you have to do and do what's right for the people.
Thank you, Jim, on that part. The next topic goes to you.
Yeah, just adding there, Jim, as you mentioned, this law enforcement, you are for law enforcement, but as you mentioned, we all are watching on the TVs, so there's some trust in the communities, in the citizens that is deteriorating. How do you think that trust can be built up in our law enforcement agencies?
Well, I believe we need to get citizens involved to sit down and talk about what do they see in their cities? What do you see in your counties? What can we work towards instead of fighting against each other? I mean, I know a lot of people think we ought to have police committees above the police officers that look at everything. Well, I'll tell you right now, how many citizens would really know about the workings of the police departments and law enforcement agencies? You don't know that. Yeah, I just believe that we need to be working with our law enforcement agencies. I think there should be citizens involved. But as far as citizens being involved in the day-to-day operation, they don't know what's going on, and they don't understand what by law what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And I just think they need to come up with a way in all our cities and counties. And I know here we've had, I know downtown Modesto Police Department has had meetings. He has, the chief has them in most of the different things. And I do believe we have to get together and work together.
No, thank you, Jim. Yeah, there has to be open dialogue and information has to be flown in both the directions to build up trust.
You have to have an open dialogue. You also have to remember that everything that goes on in those departments are not at this time that you can put out. I know the chief here is putting a lot of the cameras that go on downtown. He puts them out. He puts them out and lets people see what happened. But that's good and it's bad, I guess you could say, because if you have a problem, you put it publicly out there before you have time to investigate it and come up with what really happened. I've watched these different cameras and stuff they have on these guys. And until you know the whole story, just taking what one camera had to say or two, you have to investigate it, and then you have to be publicly open to the citizens.
Right, Jim. Yeah, we have the technology. Why not use that technology to help our law enforcement as well as our citizens? So, as you are for the jobs, you mentioned that you are for bringing the more job opportunities and more companies to come in the Central Valley and District 5. So one thing we observed, Jim, is the education, our kids, they have to go either to Sacramento, San Jose, or East Bay to get the education. And once they go there, they stay there because organizations are there for the job opportunities.
Yeah, it used to be pretty well known, go to the Bay Area and make more money and stuff. And a lot of people would live in the Valley and then go to Oakland and the Bay, San Francisco. I think a lot of that has stopped because right now I know everybody's having a hard time hiring police officers. Right now they're running the policemen through the mill constantly every day. And, the younger people that we need to be officers are saying, well, why would I want to do that? Why would I take a job that I'm going to be good at every day of the week? And that's not right. I agree. You have to have reform in some of these areas. But I don't think you just automatically defund them at all.
Right. No, sure, Jim. So there were certain talks about the CSUs in Stockton, but that thing met some hurdles. So what do you think where we are from the education perspective now, and how do you see the future of District 5 where we can have higher educational institutes for our kids?
I can't hear.
But I think there's a technical difficulty. Can you repeat your question again?
Say that again.
Yeah, Jim, I was asking about the CSU in Stockton.
Oh, CSU.
Yes.
Yeah. I've looked at that quite a bit, and I just don't know whether it's good or bad. I know CSU in Stockton would be a great thing, but I think we really need to look at the whole picture on that. But right now, I'm against another CSU at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Now I'll take it back to Raj.
Just something on the education side. So when we talk about bringing more jobs, Jim, this is something I've been hearing from different folks that live in our San Joaquin County, Stanislaus County, but they work over the Altamont Pass in the Bay Area. When you talk about we're trying to bring a job sector here, especially if you look at the IT jobs. That's the Bay Area's hub of IT. They say we don't have a sustained workforce. And in order to create the sustained workforce, we need to have educational institutions, so they can produce the graduates in the pipeline. So I'm just trying to understand your point of view or your standpoint, the not having a CSU or any other university. How are we going to manage that workforce then?
Well, I know we need the education for all of these people, but at this point, I just don't see us adding another college at CSU in Stockton. It's just number one, we need to be able to fill our colleges. And right now, I don't think that adding at CSU will do anything for education. I don't think it'll do anything right now any more than it's being done right now in jobs or anything else. I just believe that we need to look at that. I'm not totally saying no, but I think there's got to be a real good look at what we're going to do. We add another CSU. Is that good? Right now, I don't know. Okay. I mean, with colleges closed right now, and I know how important it is that we do train people for jobs. I think we need to look at more too about the people that are unable to go to college. We need to have training in mechanics or whatever else we got out there that we can train them. And we can do that in our JCs. We can do it in high school. In fact, they need to start training now. But right now, no, I'm not ready for another CSU at this time.
Okay. Thank you for giving your point of view on that. That brings me to our next topic, which is regarding the healthcare side. So if you look into your District 5's area, Mountain House in Tracy, it's rapidly growing at such a fast pace, but there's only one hospital that serves both cities, Mountain House and Tracy. So what are your thought process, or how do you see a future towards serving the population in these towns and giving them the hospital services?
You know, I was mayor in Modesto when Kaiser wanted to come to Modesto, and there was a lot of pushback. A lot of people didn't want to see that happen, especially the people who lived around the area. They had a lot of pushback to it. I think you have to look, is it a good plan? Are you going to have population that will use the hospitals? It depends on what hospital is it. Is it a Kaiser? Is it any of them? But as far as having another hospital, I've been years ago, I was connected with Tracy's because we started the ambulance service there and we knew the people there. But I just think right off here that we need to look at this thing, and if a hospital can be fulfilled there, then fine. I'm for
it. Thank you, Jim. Good stage. I think it brings us to the last topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, before that, I have one more thought. So, Jim, what do you think the affordability in our cities, that is a challenge for the citizens? So what do you think where we are with respect to affordabilities for our citizens right now? And how do you see the future where there will be a less barrier between the affordability?
Well, I think it goes back to COVID-19. Number one, we got to open up our cities. We got to open up our businesses. We've got people out there that need jobs. But I tell you, one thing we don't need is any more raise in taxes. Those gas tax or lower taxes, and you'll see a lot of things change. You'll see a lot of people coming back. I mean, I have family members that have left California in the last year and a half, have moved to Idaho strictly because of taxes. I mean, they can go to Idaho and live a lot better than we do here because they don't, with the DMV tax, all those taxes have got to be lowered. We got to quit raising taxes and shoving people out of California. They're shoving them out of our own city. You know, you have the building go on, and then all of a sudden you got more people, and then the next thing you know, they pass another tax law and they leave. So I'm totally against any increase in taxes at this time.
Thank you very much, Jim. So moving along, Jim, about the homelessness. So quarter of the population in our country lives in California, which is homeless. And this COVID is creating a challenge. So what do you think where we are with respect of homelessness now, and how do you want to tackle it in the future?
I'm going to have to repeat that one. I didn't hear it very well.
So Jim, about the homelessness, so how do you think where we are now with respect to homelessness, and how do you see the future?
Well, I can see the future growing. I think we can get out of this COVID-19. I think we need to, like I said, we need to open up businesses. We've got to get people back to work. I mean, I hear this all the time about unemployment and stuff. People are being paid more than they were working. But we got to do something about that. We need people back to work. I mean, when people can sit home and do nothing and make more money than they were making, we need to look at the whole system. Something isn't right. And if we don't get together and look at that, none of it's going to win. It's got to open up our businesses. And like I said, we got to lower taxes and we got to quit raising these taxes on businesses. Businesses can't even open up because of the taxes that we're charging.
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
Well, I think we got a bright future. I really do. Once we get over this COVID-19, get people back to work, I think we'll go back and I think we'll have a very bright future. And if I'm elected, I'm going to do a lot of screaming and hollering to get it that way. I want people to have an open door to get to us, get to the legislature, get to your city council, board of supervisors. I hear this all the time. Well, I called them 12 or 15 times and never returned calls. Hey, you're there because you were elected to do a job. And part of that job is you talk to people, you ask questions. There's none of us that can sit here and make all these decisions unless you sit down and you actually look at what's going on. You got to ask questions. You got to get out in your communities. Find out what's going on. Just don't sit in your office thinking you're going to make all these good decisions.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for highlighting on all these topics that we heard from the different residents they would like to hear. So we really appreciate your time and energy for being with us. And at the last, if you would have to say something to your voters, something that we missed to ask you to address, please go ahead. You can address that.
Well, I just want to see people get out and vote, and I want them to pick the right candidate for the job. Listen to how they talk. Listen to what they're saying. But follow up on what do they actually do. What do we do in our communities? Look at mine. I was 8 years mayor in Modesto. We went through the 2008 housing market. We didn't declare bankruptcy, but that took a lot of work. It took a lot of work of the 7 members on the council, plus our management in our city worked very close with us, and we made it through that. We worked with the unions. We worked with all the different people that wanted to do something wrong. You have to sit and talk to people. You just don't sit in your ivory tower or whatever they want to call it and think you're going to make all these good decisions. You're not. You have to talk to people. And be very open to them and be very transparent to them. Because I know not being transparent is a problem. My 8 years, I had an agreement with Modesto B. Every Wednesday, they sent somebody in our office, myself and the city manager would sit down and they could ask any question they wanted to. Well, you got to have an open policy. You can't hide behind those closed doors because sooner or later it will come out. And it wasn't good for the people.
Thank you, Jim. At last, if, like you said, follow up with your candidates who have any question to clarify, we would encourage the audience to reach out to Jim on his Facebook page. Or Jim, can you please provide your contact information that you wanted to give it to the public?
Confidential information? Is that what
your contact information that you can share with the public.
I think we need to. I know a lot of times that we try to close our offices. You can't do that. You have to be transparent to everything if you can be transparent about. I'm not saying that you just open the floodgates or something, but anything that we can sit down and talk to people, we need to be transparent.
Look, thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate. And we would encourage our listeners to please follow up with Jim for any question or send those questions to us. We will send those questions to Jim for get them answered and make an informed decision for November 3rd. So before we end, Jim, so any message for the voters, how they will remember you?
How people going to remember me? I hope they remember me being good, doing the job that people, if I'm elected, doing the job that people expect. I did it when I was mayor. I can do it again as senator. But I would expect people to I would want people to think of me that I did what I promised.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for your time today, and we wish you good luck as well, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.